say marriage is like a car. If you maintain it well, it will carry you far. But if you ignore the signs, one day the engine will knock when you least expect. Zipporah had been married to Eugene for 8 years. From the outside, they looked like the perfect couple with a decent house, 2 children in good schools, and Eugene with a steady job in a construction company. But inside their home, Zipporah knew that the cracks were widening. Her greatest frustration wasn't luxury trips or designer bags. It was something simple, basic, and necessary, which was a car. Every morning, Zipporah would wake up before dawn to prepare food for her catering business. She tied her apron with pride, arranged steamy coolers of different dishes. Clients loved her cooking. Others kept on increasing, but one problem stood like a stubborn stone in her shoe, which was transportation. Sometimes she begged Uber drivers to help her arrange the food carefully. Other times, she stood under the hot sun, sweating and praying that the delivery guy wouldn't end up eating the fried chicken she had labored on all night and land her in serious debt. By the time she delivered the food, she was already worn out, and at the end of the month, when she checked her accounts, she realized most of her hard-earned money had gone into transport. She had tried to save. She truly did, but each time the savings grew, it vanished into another urgent Uber trip or emergency bike ride. She knew the truth in her heart that if she had the car, her business would double, even triple. And so she begged Eugene. "Dear," she said one evening as they ate dinner, "please, I need a car, even if it's a small one. The money I spend on transport could be going into the children's future." Eugene, wiping his mouth with tissue, shook his head. "Not now, Zipporah. Things are tight. Let's focus on other things first. Maybe next year." Zipporah's heart dropped. She had heard that maybe next year too many times. She tried again weeks later, this time while Eugene watched football. "Dear, I have been saving. If you can add to it, I can get a car. I will pay you back for my business profits." Without taking his eyes off the screen, Eugene muttered, "Zipporah, please, can't you see the economy? This is not the right time." She wanted to scream because she knew he had the money, but she held her peace simply because she had learned patience. Still that night, lying on her bed, she muttered into the darkness, "God, how can I be married to a man who can afford comfort but denies it to me? What exactly is it doing with this money that I don't see?" The next morning, she carried herself to the markets, bought fresh tomatoes, peppers and spices, and went back to her pots. Work was her therapy. She knew that one day God would answer her prayers. But deep inside, she felt a strange restlessness. Eugene was changing. He had grown more secretive with his phone. He now came home late, always with an excuse about work, and when she asked him small questions, he snapped quickly. When she was done cooking, the afternoon sky carried the kind of grey that warns you gently before the rain arrives. She checked the time on her phone, balanced 2 warm food carriers on her lap as she sat in the backseat of the Uber. She had the corporate delivery in Victoria Island. She had triple-checked the seasoning, packed everything neatly, and said a short prayer before leaving the house. "Madam, seatbelt please," the driver said, polite and focused. She clicked it in place. "Thank you. Let's move." Traffic on the expressway behaved like an old man with a stubborn nail. Start, stop, sigh, and then start again. The driver kept a steady pace. Zipporah used the time to update the client. She also glanced at her monthly budget app. Transport costs were already whispering ugly numbers into her future. The driver indicated, looked into his mirror, and tried to slip into a cleaner lane. In that same breath, a Toyota RAV4 ahead braked a touch ahead than expected. The Uber driver tapped his brake, but Lagos roads have their own sense of humor. Tap! And there was a small sharp kiss of bumper on bumper. The Uber driver exhaled. "Ah, madam, I am so sorry." Zipporah's heart flipped, but she remained calm. The Raffles door opened and a young woman stepped out looking so clean with perfume that announced itself with confidence. She looked at the bumper as if it was a broken promise. "What is this?" she asked. "Oga, you will pay me now." The Uber driver climbed out with his arms opened and then he said, "Sister, please, it is minor. Let's talk." Zipporah stayed in the car with her eyes on the food, praying it remained upright. She could see the woman through the window. Pretty, polished, and ready for battle. Her name popped into the air when the Uber driver asked for it. Melissa. Zipporah memorized it without meaning to. The drizzle began, and Melissa crossed her arms and insisted on cash at once. The Uber driver tried to explain, to reason, and to suggest swapping details and settling properly, but Melissa was unmoved. Zipporah checked the time again. The delivery window was so close, and she needed to calm the storm without losing her client. "Excuse me," she said. "We can settle this. Let's not block the road." Melissa glanced at her, then looked away immediately as if Zipporah's calm was an insult. Zipporah picked up her phone and dialed Eugene. He always had a way with people. Perhaps today he would help. First call, no answer. She tried again. Second call, no answer. Her tongue felt dry. She looked at the food carriers and imagined her client's face sinking with disappointment. She dialed the third time, willing the line to connect and willing her husband to pick up. Third call, the same silence and the same empty ring. She drew a slow breath and decided to handle it herself, but before she could speak again, Melissa took out her phone and called someone. She didn't beg and she didn't explain. She just said, "Come now." 2 minutes. That was all it took. A familiar SUV pulled up with a speed that suggested priority. The door opened. Eugene stepped out. Zipporah's body went cold, then hot, and then both at the same time. He didn't look towards the Uber and he didn't scan the area like a man who had been called by his wife. He moved straight to Melissa as if pulled by a string he couldn't cut. "Are you okay?" he asked her with a careful and almost tender voice. Zipporah lowered her head. For a second, the sound of the road faded. The Uber driver glanced back at her reflection in the mirror uncertain. "Madam?" "I am fine," she said, though she was not. "Please keep the hazard lights on." Outside, Eugene examined Melissa's bumper like a man inspecting a wound. He signaled to the Uber driver to step aside. He spoke with authority, with familiarity, and the way a man speaks where he believes he is in control of both the situation and the people. Zipporah watched his hands move. She knew those hands. She had held them in prayer. She had nursed them when he came home tired from work, and she had dreamt they would one day place a khaki in her palm and say, "You deserve this." Today, those hands were bracing another woman's arm, steadying her in the rain. Melissa said something Zipporah couldn't hear, then pointed at the Uber. Eugene walked towards the driver and his tone changed, hard, sharp, and dismissive. "This is carelessness," he said. "You must pay for it now." Zipporah's chest tightened. She understood what she was saying, but her heart refused to accept it. She carefully arranged the food carriers and reached for the door handle. Then she stopped. "No? Not yet. Let him reveal himself fully and let him finish his performance." Eugene turned back to Melissa, lowered his voice, almost protective. By this time, people began to stare. The Uber driver tried again to calm Eugene down. Melissa folded her arms, playing the offended party. Zipporah's phone vibrated. It was a message from her client asking for an update. She typed back immediately. "Apologies, ma. My Uber driver bumped on a car. Kindly give me a few hours." Then she did one thing her heart had been fighting. She opened the door and stepped out. She closed the door gently and walked forward, calm, straight and unshaken in her step. Eugene saw her and he wished she could disappear immediately. Zipporah didn't raise her voice and she didn't ask questions yet. She simply came close enough to see what the wind had tried to show her. On the dashboard, the registration slip lay half covered. The owner's name was clear, Eugene. She didn't touch it because she didn't need to. The truth was already loud. Good afternoon, she said, her tone balanced and her eyes on her husband. Eugene swallowed, words trapped somewhere between his throat and shame. Zipporah turned slightly towards the Uber driver and said, "Please don't worry, we will resolve this properly." Then she faced the car again. The car she had prayed for and the very car she had begged for. The Uber driver stood awkwardly by his car, torn between defending himself and staying out of a family matter he hadn't bargained for. Eugene shifted his weight from one foot to another, his lips parting but no sound came out. He looked like a man caught between fire and flood. Zipporah was not the type to shout in the streets. No, she had learnt over the years that silence could weigh heavier than any insult. Melissa on her part was losing patience and then she asked, "Who is this?" Zipporah smiled faintly, which only interpreted, "Introduce me, Eugene, or I do it myself." Eugene rubbed his forehead and said, "Zipporah, listen, this is not what you think." Her eyes flicked to the registration slip pinned against the dashboard. "Then what is it?" she asked. Melissa, sensing that she must be his wife, crossed her arms and then said, "Look, madam, this car is mine. If you have come here to make noise, I bought it with my sweat and with my diligence, so please." "Be careful," Zipporah cut in, her voice sharp enough to slice through the rain. The crowd shifted, sensing drama, and phones were slowly rising. Eugene stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Zipporah, please can we talk privately?" She laughed bitterly. "Privately? No, sir. You ignored 3 of my calls, but 1 call from her. You came here flying like an ambulance. So, sir, let's talk publicly. Let the same people who saw my shame see your truth." Melissa gasped, offended. "What are you insinuating?" Zipporah took a slow step towards her, not raising her tone. "Insinuating? No, my darling. I am not in your league, but let me just be kind and give you one answer. I am stating that this car," she tapped the bonnet lightly, "it is registered in my husband's name, the same man who told me every day that he could not afford one for me." The Uber driver shifted uncomfortably, whispering to himself, "God, I beg, carry me out of this wahala." Eugene tried to intervene, but Zipporah's eyes burned with quiet power. She lifted her hand, signaling him to stop. "I told you to get at least a Toyota Corolla for me, but you said it was too expensive. You watch me struggle with buses, bikes and Ubers every single day. You watch me count pennies, save and still lose everything to transport. You told me to wait and to be patient because my name is long-suffering and endurance. Meanwhile, you bought a RAV4 tear rubber for her." Her words struck harder than any slap. Eugene bent his head, unable to answer. Melissa's lips quivered. Her pride forced her to speak. "He bought it for me because I deserve it." "Oh," Zipporah clapped. "I thought you said you bought it with your work and diligence." "Well, you were right. You deserve him. A man who lies, a man who cheats, and a man who tells his wife to wait while buying comfort for another woman. If that is what you call deserving, then take it. But the car," she extended her hand, "the car now belongs to me." Melissa clutched her handbag tighter. "I won't give you the keys." Zipporah didn't blink. She turned slowly to Eugene. "If she won't give them, then you will. Because if I walk away from this place empty-handed, you will walk away without a wife." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Someone whispered, This woman no dey play oh. Eugene swallowed hard. His pride collapsed like soaked paper. He reached into Melissa's hand, pried the keys from her fingers, and held them out for Zipporah. His hands trembled and his voice cracked as he said, "Here is it." Zipporah stretched her hand calmly and collected the keys, not with joy and not with drama, but with the quiet dignity of a woman who had been wronged and had nothing left to prove. She looked at him once more, then at Melissa, who now stood shivering, not from the rain, but from humiliation. "Eugene," she said slowly, "I begged you for months. All I wanted was support. You made me feel like I was asking for too much, but now I see clearly it wasn't the car you couldn't afford. It was me you refused to value." With that, she turned, walked back to the Uber, and gently carried the food carriers inside the RAV4. For a full minute, nobody moved. The Uber driver finally found his voice. "Madam, should I go?" Zipporah turned to him. "Please hold on." She faced Eugene. "Two things must happen here. One, you will pay for the driver's bumper repair and my new car today. Two, you will apologize to him and to me because you know I hate disgrace." Eugene nodded quickly like a student who had just found out that the exam would be oral. "I will pay. I am sorry," he said to the driver with his voice low. The driver scratched his head surprised. "Oga, thank you, sir." "Don't thank him yet," Zipporah said gently. A traffic warden who had been watching from a short distance came closer. He had the look of a man who has seen enough Lagos quarrels to last a lifetime. "Una dey block road oh," he said almost kindly. "If una dey settle, abeg make una settle sharp sharp." "Please give us few minutes," Zipporah replied. Eugene opened his wallet and pulled out cash. Zipporah shook her head. "No, not with guesswork. We will do this clean." She asked the driver, "How much will fix it? Call your mechanic and put it on loudspeaker." The driver obeyed. He described the damage. The mechanic gave his figure. It was not small, but it was fair. "Transfer it now," Zipporah said to Eugene. "Full payment and add something for the driver's time." Eugene transferred the money while Melissa stood there folding and unfolding her arms. When his phone pinged with confirmation, the Uber driver received his alert and blinked in disbelief. "It has entered," he said, calmer now. "Thank you, sir. And madam, thank you, and may God bless you. You can now go, and may your day end better than it started." The driver looked at her as if she was a rare person. "Amen, madam." He drove off slowly, leaving the three of them under the rain. Now, the road felt wider. Fewer eyes watched. The traffic warden drifted back, satisfied. Zipporah faced Melissa. "You can go home, and as you are going, reflect and ask yourself if this is the kind of love that builds a future." "My car keys," Melissa said, folding her arms. "You think because you are his wife you can just show up and take it? He bought it for me." Zipporah simply ignored her, and this made her to be so angry. "Don't be fooled, madam. He chose me, and that's why he gave it to me and not you. You are holding the keys, but you will never hold him. He will still come back." The words landed like stones, but Zipporah didn't flinch. For the first time, Melissa blinked, caught off guard by her calm assurance. She had expected shouting, insults, or even a fight, but Zipporah gave none of that. The crowd gasped, waiting for Zipporah's reaction, but she didn't take the bait. She walked closer to Melissa, her steps calm and deliberate. When she stopped, she was close enough for their eyes to lock woman to woman. "You mistake convenience for love. If he could betray me for you, what makes you think he won't betray you for someone else?" With this, she entered her new car and drove off. The traffic warden finally stepped forward, waving his baton gently. "Oya, Everybody clear road, story don't finish. People chuckled and began to disperse, still whispering about what had just happened. As Zipporah drove, she could not help but notice how comfortable it felt. The smooth steering, the firm grip of the tires, and the quiet hum that spoke of reliability. It was everything she had prayed for. Yet, bitterness sat beside her like an uninvited passenger. She remembered the countless times she had pleaded, the nights she sat by Eugene after work, explaining how her catering business was bleeding because of transport. The early mornings when she left the house before sunrise, juggling heavy coolers onto buses, pretending not to notice the curious stares of strangers. This same car, she thought, was what I begged for. She could still hear Eugene's voice in her mind. Zipporah, we cannot afford it now. Be patient till next year. Her phone rang, snapping her out of the storm in her head. It was her client. Madam Zipporah, are you close? The guests are waiting. I am 2 minutes away, she replied, steadying her voice. She delivered the food with her usual grace, ensuring everything was arranged perfectly. The client smiled, impressed. You always deliver, no matter the weather. Thank you. Zipporah forced a polite smile. It is my duty, ma, and thank you for patronizing me. But as she drove back home that evening, the silence in the car was louder than any traffic noise. When she finally pulled into their compound, Eugene was waiting by the gate with his hands folded behind his back like a guilty schoolboy. He opened the gate himself and gestured for her to drive in. She parked neatly, switched off the engine, and stepped out slowly. The keys jingled in her hand like a verdict. Zipporah, Eugene began. Please let me explain. She looked at him, her face calm but unreadable. Explain what exactly? That the car you said you couldn't afford found its way to another woman? He swallowed hard. It's not what you think. She almost laughed. It is exactly what I think, Eugene, so please don't insult my intelligence. He followed her quietly into the house like a shadow. Their children were asleep. Zipporah placed the keys on the center table deliberately, the sound echoing through the silence. This, she said, pointing at the keys, should have been mine. It should have been helping me grow and helping us grow. Instead, you used it to sponsor distraction. Do you know how many nights I cried, wondering why you couldn't see my struggle? Do you know how many times I almost gave up because I was breaking under the weight? Eugene lowered his head ashamed. I was wrong, he said. Yes, she said firmly. You were, not just as a husband, but as a man. You failed me. He stepped closer, desperate. I will make it up to you. Zipporah shook her head. You cannot buy back my tears. You cannot erase the night I carried burdens alone, but you can choose who you want to be from today. There was silence, the kind of silence that feels heavier than words. Zipporah finally picked up the keys again and held them tightly. Eugene, this car will not be a reminder of betrayal. It will be a reminder that will no longer be invisible in my own marriage. If you want me to stay, then you have to understand this. I will not be numbered, and I will also not compete for space in your heart. Her words landed like stones dropped in water. For the first time since their wedding, Eugene didn't argue. He didn't defend and he didn't deflect. He simply nodded. And in that moment, Zipporah realized the truth. That power shifts not when you shout the loudest, but when you finally decide you deserve better. She turned away, walked into the bedroom and closed the door, leaving Eugene in the sitting room with nothing but his shame, his silence and the echo of her words. The morning after the storm was strangely quiet. Zipporah sat at the edge of the bed, fully dressed for her day, while Eugene lingered by the door like a man waiting for permission to breathe. She had barely spoken to him since the night before. Her silence was not out of weakness, it was a deliberate choice. Zipporah, Eugene began cautiously. About yesterday, she raised her hand. Don't start another explanation. What I want now are not words, they are actions. He shifted uneasily. What do you want me to do? Zipporah stood, facing him squarely. Her voice was steady and her eyes sharp. From today, she said, I will not beg for respect in this house. If you want me here, then you have to understand that I will not be treated like one out of many. If you cannot cut ties with distractions, then don't keep me chained. Let's go to court so you can free me. Her words cut deeper than anger could. Eugene exhaled slowly, and then he promised, I am ready to change. She studied him, her face unreadable. Promises are cheap, Eugene. You promised me faithfulness at the altar. You promised me a partner when we started this life. Yet, here we are. I don't need more promises. I need proof. Zipporah continued, her tone calm but firm. From now on, I want complete transparency. Your phone, your chats and your dealings, nothing should be hidden. And beyond that, I want partnership. If I ask for support in my business, you give it without excuses. I will no longer carry this family on my back alone while you play hero in someone else's story. Her words ran through the room like a verdict. Eugene's voice cracked. You will have it, whatever you need. Zipporah gave a small nod, but her face didn't soften. Good, because understand me well, Eugene. If I ever feel like I'm being made to compete for your love again, I will not argue. I will simply walk away. Eugene realized she was serious. I mean, truly serious. He saw it in her eyes, the calm determination of a woman who had reached her limits. He tried to touch her hand, but she pulled it back gently. No, Eugene. Don't touch me with hands that haven't yet proven themselves to be clean. Ain't that right again? She picked up her handbag, slung it over her shoulders, grabbed the car keys from the table, and for a moment she paused, looking at the keys. A strange mist of pain and pride washed over her. Then she said, if you know there is anything that will make her win me in court as the legitimate owner of this car, please go and correct it because I love the feel and I am not ready to let go. With that, she walked out. Eugene remained rooted to the spot, his heart pounding. He had seen her angry before. Oh yes, but this was different. This was not anger. This was resolve, and he knew that this her resolve was far more dangerous than anger. Later that day, when Zipporah returned from her deliveries, Eugene tried again to reach her. He showed her his phone without her asking, scrolled through his chats, explained his movements with a nervous eagerness. Zipporah listened quietly but said nothing. She was not in a hurry to heal what had been broken. Healing would come, but on her terms. As she prepared for bed that night, she whispered to herself, I don't need to fight for love anymore. If he wants me, he must choose me completely. Days passed after the incident, but the air in the house was still heavy. Eugene walked carefully like a man in a field of landmines. He came home earlier than usual, switched off his phone in the evenings, and placed it face up on the table as though waiting for an inspection. It was a silent way of saying, see, I am trying. Zipporah noticed, but she didn't rush to applaud him. Instead, she poured her energy into herself. The first change was her appearance. She began to invest in clothes that highlighted her confidence. She was dressing for herself, for the woman she had almost forgotten in the middle of sacrifice. The second change was her business. She rebranded her catering service, changed the packaging, redesigned her flyers, and even registered her company's name officially. She posted her meals online with short and catchy captions. Others began to multiply, and clients who once saw her as the local caterer now saw her as a professional. Her phone buzzed constantly with new inquiries. Each time she closed the deal, she smiled, not because of the money alone, but because she was finally building something that belonged to her. Eugene noticed the glow. He noticed the way heads turned when they walked into church together, especially how men complimented her work ethic and appearance. For the first time in a long time, he felt something he hadn't expected, the fear of losing her. One evening after dinner, he sat across from her in the living room, his hands filled with his phone nervously. Finally, he unlocked it, scrolled to his messages, and pushed it across the table towards her. Zipporah, he called out. Look at all my chats, my calls, and everything. There is nothing hidden. She looked at the phone, then at him, but did not pick it up. Why are you showing me this? She asked calmly. Because I want you to trust me again, he admitted. I know I've broken something deep. I want to earn it back, even if it takes the rest of my life. Zipporah leaned back, her eyes steady. Trust isn't earned by handing over a phone, Eugene. It is earned by consistency. It is earned by me never again having to call 3 times while you ignore me and rush to another woman at once. Can you live with that? Yes, he said quickly, almost too quickly. I can and I will. She studied him in silence for a long moment, then sighed. We will see. The truth was, Eugene had already changed in small ways. He called her more often during the day, asked about her deliveries, even offered to drive her when his schedule allowed. He began to compliment her openly with words he had neglected in the past, but Zipporah didn't let it cloud her judgment. She understood now that a woman who knows her worth cannot be pacified by crumbs of attention. She needed the whole loaf or nothing at all. And slowly, Eugene began to understand that the woman living with him now was no longer the Zipporah he once took for granted. She had turned a corner. She was no longer begging for value, she was demanding it. And that was the turning point of their marriage. He started taking her out again for quiet dinners, evening walks, and sometimes just a drive through the city with soft music playing. They talked about real deals, not just children and bills. He asked her about her dreams. He listened, truly listened, and when she was done, he didn't say, let's pray about it or be patient as a way to avoid action. He said, send me the budget, let's do it right. Gradually, he regained his trust, and like magic, his own finances blew up. Hey, Karma Tribe, how are you all doing? For me, I am doing just fine. Let me ask you, if you were in Zipporah's shoes, would you have stayed to rebuild your marriage after such humiliation, or would you have walked away without looking back? And to the men watching, please, I am just curious. Why do some husbands find it easy to invest in outsiders while their wives are crying for support at home? Drop your answers in the comments. Let's have a real conversation. And please, don't forget to give the story a thumbs up, share out to your loved ones, and subscribe if you have not subscribed to this channel. And until I bring the next interesting story your way, it is a goodbye from here, and God bless you.